Alright, YouTube. I'm gonna be doing a series. This series will I don't know how many parts it's gonna be. What it will entail is a brief synopsis of why they created the African American, why the black man in America today is in the state he is in, and I think I'm gonna just kind of work with that. First, I'm gonna start with why do they create the African American? Okay, well, most people, I don't know how old you are if you can remember, but there's been a thing where we went to colored, Negro to black to Afro American to African American. Now, within that, there was a. This is how you begin to amalgamate people who never considered themselves to be African American. Because if you ask somebody, they probably don't, not in the 90s. Ask somebody in the 90s, um, unless they've been watching enough TV and they've been told enough times, they will tell you maybe they're African American, but the majority of those people were considered colored in the 20s. And before then, I'm pretty sure it was mulatto and native. Now, that being said, I use the scripture often. Come, let's make man in our image. So there's a saying, an Orwellian saying, he that controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. So, and they're well aware that people's identity of the identity that is given to them. If you feel you were once a slave, well, they know you will convince yourself that you've always been a slave. Now, the ambiguousness of this word African American is very ambiguous. And to the point you have immigrants who can call themselves black or African American, which technically is incorrect. Now, I myself, I come from a Creole, Choctaw, black, Indian kind of thing. Midwest is very Creole-ish and has its own demographic of its own history. And a lot of people, of course, don't know history because you're not taught that in school. A lot of the people from the Midwest, Oklahoma, Texas, St. Louis, ancestry is a very unique ancestry, as in, it's totally different. It was regimented differently, and so I would suggest that any of you guys are from those ancestries, if you're able to get your hands on some of your parents' records and check it out. Now, the reason why they created the African American was formed by Jesse Jackson, I believe. And Jesse Jackson is a Mason, and all Masons have a job to do. Okay? All Masons have a job to do. Okay? The white Masons and black Masons, they really work together. Now, the godfather of Masonry in America is who you know as Albert Pike. Albert Pike is the one who started the Ku Klux Klan. Now, I'll get into that a little bit different on why they used the Ku Klux Klan and what was the purpose of the Ku Klux Klan, and that it was it was a plan to get black people out of rural areas and into cities, and then also being dependent. And so they created the African American to be they created the African American for many reasons, and they also let civil rights happen for many reasons. Martin Luther King was a Mason as well, and like I said, with all these revolutionaries, as soon as your job is over, your job is over. Okay, that goes for Malcolm X as well, Marcus Garvey. They're all Masons, and so all Masons have a job to do. So, what Jesse Jackson did was to convince a lot of black Americans, colored Americans, to call themselves African American. And by doing that, they begin to disassociate themselves from their ancestors and and then to begin what they referred to as what Marcus Garvey started was Pan-Africanism. And that's basically it's socialist. It's very socialist. It's a socialist identity. It's where you don't have an individual identity, or you don't come from an individualized tribe or anything like that. That you come from a very generalized tribe, which is actually a Darwinian belief, and because that's really what the Masons believe. All Masons are Darwinians and evolutionists. And so there's always a theme within creating what Hitler called the Übermensch, the perfect man, and that's what African American is. It's a man that's a global man. And so when I say black, when you say African American, you have an image in your head of what that is. And it's a eugenics way of creating images in people's heads, and so people identify with what an African American is supposed to be, what's supposed to look like. But when you actually look at other people's lineage, your ancestors are your ancestors. Okay, so it really is a UN project from the United Nations of creating these categories. And so it really excludes you from certain treaties, treaties that apply to you and your lineages, like such as the Blackamoors, the Black Seminoles, the Choctaw, the Creoles, or you go down the line of the different types of blacks that exist. And so today, through immigration, those races are being eradicated, if you like it or not. So that's getting into the why they created the African American. Okay, so you got to think your Jesse Jacksons, because these are nudges. Why are they so concerned every couple of years? Have they nudged us to colored to all the way to African American? Okay, and it's the same thing with the white folks. So it's the exact same thing. They took their nationalities and they created a thing called race, because it's all Darwinian. And it's all a plan of getting rid of nations. If you have no borders, you have no nation. And so that's what people are what we're actually going through is a annihilation and genocide. So the reason why I have a bone to pick with so much of these black scholars, because they lie and they don't tell you the truth. You're walking around, you're talking about white supremacy. Doesn't exist. The white man's burden was a temporary tool that comes from the Cecil Rhodes and the Milner group, and that those white supremacy ideologies were just a tool just so the white man is being played as a tool, to which a lot of this stuff is really a Zionist ploy. And Zionist is the creation of a Jewish state. Okay? So, now, that being said, why is the black man in the position he's in? Well, stating that the divide and conquer thing, that you've been separated from your brethren across the American diaspora, it's so the war is on your in your mind, and you're actually warring against your own. And this goes for the white man too, the alleged like white man, because this shit don't exist. This is just some creation, but we're gonna shorten it. A lot of people that you see that you think are white are just blacks who are passing, and a lot of blacks you see were just whites who did not pass after a while, because if you understand the French, not the French Revolution, well, it does go back into the French Revolution, but if you go back into the French quarters, and why they did purchase the Louisiana Purchase, and what happened after they purchased the Louisiana Purchase. So, I can get into the Illuminati a little later, but let's get further into the destruction of the black man. Now, I don't like to use the word fucking Illuminati. I really don't, because people have turned that into talking about fucking Rihanna or some shit, because it ain't got nothing to do with that. What Illuminati and revolutions go hand in hand. So if you check out Adam Weishaupt, I want to say he's the grandfather of Illuminati, but he's the father of Illuminati. And so what they do is they create revolutions. So all around the world, okay, like the Bolsheviks, Trotsky, and whatnot. And 1976, when the Illuminati started, funny, that's the same time America started the sovereignty, right? Because these are the times of the revolutions and Illuminati and whatever. So, I'll get back to that later. The destruction of the black man. Well, now, I'm generally speaking, because, like I said, there's many types of black men, and especially in America, because you can't look at one part of the diaspora. The Louisiana, Texas black man is totally different than your Georgia black man. Okay, these are, or your Virginia black man. Two different beings. Virginians were more of a miner for mining people, and California black people were more of a Native American, or even a Magellan-ish people, or Creole-ish people. So the reason why they created the Ku Klux Klan was to be a terrorist group to get the blacks or the coloreds, I'll use the word coloreds, off of their land and move them and migrate them into these cities. And I'm not really talking about New York. That has its own diaspora and its own thing. So you started to integrate these people into these what you would call ghettos. Okay, so now let's speed this up to see what happened. Well, they allowed Martin Luther King to perform the civil rights movement. He was allowed to, because how are you going to bring democracy around the world when you don't even have it in your own country? So all this was part of a much bigger show, and once it was done, he passed the baton on to Jesse Jackson. And then, okay, now Jesse Jackson is a big part of it. I mean, this mofo is running around talking about wearing suits, and the next thing you know, he's running around wearing African dashikis. Okay, from where I'm from, people don't really change their wardrobe unless they have some sort of mental problem. And that's a lot where a lot of your black power groups probably get a lot of that crap from. But that being said, when you look at the 60s and you look at the 70s, you're looking at something totally opposite. They went from preachers to pimps, because the Royal Institute came out with the culture of saying that they were going to come out with, they referred to, with Negro music. And that's really where all of this stemmed from. They could have put any music they wanted out there, but they chose to go with jazz. And through the implementation of jazz, they gave you that culture, and they also brought you your drug culture and your hippie movement and your counterculture movement. Now, within that time, they also created the American men to be perpetual children by giving them sports. At one time, sports was just something for a child, and it became something that to pacify the men, as they knew the men were not going to have any jobs. They knew they were going to identify with what do they say, externalizing their accomplishments with some people, and putting them into watching sports and spectating. Now, we could get into the whole culture creation, but the whole culture creation was actually started kind of in the 20s with the speakeasies. Okay? Now, when we start to look in the 70s and the 60s, you start to notice these counterculture groups. Like if you look at the movie Cotton Comes to Harlem, you'll see the same madness that you see today. The black men with their identity issues. They have the Moors, the Hebrew Israelites, going back to Africa schemes. And this is the same thing taking place today. And at the same time, as they're inundating the young men in the public into, you went to preachers to pimps. And so now the new man, remember, so this culture isn't yours. It's given to you, and you mimic what you see. So you went to conservative black women to promiscuous black women, into dividing the family, when you can disassociate bonding with love. You begin to associate the action with what you're doing. And so you see today your ratchet behavior. And so these techniques have been used, if you know it or not, and so it didn't just start. It started with that one song, Lay Lady Lay, and she's a Bama Jamma, to the freak of the week, to bitches ain't shit, to these hoes ain't loyal. Okay, this is a progress of decadence and demoralizing. So technically, you're looking at the black man, and I'll get into the demasculinization of the black man, but that's getting into more of a little science, and don't judge me for mentioning it, but I'm gonna have to mention that later. So these begin to be the sciences of what you're witnessing today, of why you don't have any children, why you're not going to have bonding. And it also gets into the normalization of over-sexualizing the children and teaching them to sex education at such a young early age. It's so important that they get to the child at a young early age. So that's all for now.